Hello, everyone, and welcome to Streetwise Live. I'm Cyndi Edwards. On our last episode, we heard from two psychedelics experts about Algernon Pharmaceuticals research to determine if the drug DMT can help stroke patients. Well, today we'll hear from two of Algernon's medical consultants. Both are leaders in the field of stroke treatment. When a patient is brought to a hospital with a suspected stroke, a scan is performed to determine whether it's ischemic caused by a blockage or hemorrhagic caused by a bleed. Well, once those results are in, treatment can begin. So time is of the essence. We are joined now by Dr. Anthony Rudd, past president of the British Association of Stroke Physicians and honorary vice president of the Stroke Association, as well as former London Stroke Clinical Director. Dr. Rudd helped create stroke centers in the UK where patients suspected of having a stroke have their brains scanned within minutes rather than hours. Dr. Robert Simister is a consultant neurologist and stroke physician, and since 2019, he has been the joint clinical director for the London Stroke Clinical Network. And we have Christopher Moreau, CEO of Algernon Pharmaceuticals. Welcome to all of you, gentlemen.
Hi, Cyndi.
All right, Dr. Simister, I'd like to start with you. For an ischemic stroke, which is a blockage of the blood flow to the brain and occurs in about 85% of cases, can you tell us how you treat these patients when they arrive at your high-risk stroke clinic?
Thanks very much, Cyndi. I work in a central London comprehensive stroke centre here in the UK that treats hundreds of strokes per year. And as you say, the most common type of stroke is due to a blocked artery in the brain that we call an ischemic stroke. The blockage may be anywhere inside the head, ranging from the main vessels as they enter the skull to the smallest vessels that supply the tissue. And definitely the larger the vessel that's blocked, the bigger the volume of tissue that is at immediate risk of irreversible injury. But whatever the position of that blocked artery, the treatment principles are exactly the same. That is to get the blood vessel open. That means as soon as the patient arrives, we're obliged to organize scans that can tell us if the vessel is blocked, to roll out other options that might complicate our treatment, and to deliver treatment as quickly as possible. We have two time-critical treatments that we use. The first, often used with smaller blocked vessels, is a medicine injected into the blood vein, which we call a thrombolysis or clot-busting treatment. And then for larger block vessels, we have a treatment where we deliver the treatment in specialist centers using devices to enter the arteries and grab the obstruction. And we call that thrombectomy. Some patients might have both of those treatments to minimize their opportunity for recovery. This means that our systems are designed to start with an emergency call to the ambulance, a direct transfer to our center, and then after that, we have minutes to deliver one or both of these treatments. As you say, time is critical, and this is an evolving field, but anything that provides us with some extra time to deliver the treatment will be really fantastic for all our stroke care pathways, and that's where we hope DMT might come in.
All right, moving on now to Dr. Rudd. You have been credited with being a driving force behind an extremely well-organized and efficient standard of care model for quickly assessing and treating stroke victims in the UK. Is there a personal story to share that was a factor in your many years of hard work and dedication and service?
Well, first of all, it wasn't just me. It was obviously a big team of people that helped to reorganize and get London to be one of the leading centers in terms of quality of stroke care. Well, I spent many, many years trying to improve stroke care across the country in the UK. We developed clinical guidelines, we provided education, we ran national audit, giving hospitals and clinicians detailed information about exactly what they were doing and what they were doing wrong, what they could do better. And despite that, we were still really not seeing anything very much in terms of improvement in the quality of care. We were running the intravenous thrombolysis rates that Dr. Simister just mentioned at about 1 or 2% of stroke admissions coming in. So we made this decision that we needed to focus stroke care into a much smaller number of centres in London. So just 8 hospitals for a population of 8 million people. And we put in extra money. We did set minimum staffing levels. We set clear standards that had to be achieved and some financial incentives for the hospitals to deliver those standards. And overnight, and that's about 10 years ago now, we saw a dramatic improvement in the quality of care that patients would be expected to receive. They got to stroke units very quickly. We were thrombolizing about 12 to 13% of the stroke admissions. I mean, it was just the most exciting piece of work that I was involved in my career. And what's nice is that it's been maintained. And actually, there have been continued improvements since then. So that's my story, really. Frustration for a long period of time, and then structural change producing dramatic improvement.
Okay, well, let's bring DMT into the equation now. Dr. Simister, with countless new potential stroke drugs having failed clinical trials over the years and offer little to the vast majority of stroke patients other than them being stabilized and monitored, can you tell us what it is about the psychedelic drug DMT that makes you hopeful?
Oh, yes. It's first important to say stroke is the most important cause of long-term disability. And the disability can happen to patients at any age without any warning and can be permanent despite all our best current treatments. And so there's no doubt that anything that can be done to either minimize the initial brain injury or minimize the secondary brain injury that comes straight after, caused by the brain's attempt to heal itself, an inflammatory response, or that can maximize the potential of the brain to regenerate, harmonized with our attempts at therapeutic recovery, will all be critical to our ability to recover function and to deliver better outcomes than we're currently doing. But nothing so far has been able to achieve this, that is able to both protect the brain from the original injury, buy time for treatments, protect brain from secondary injury, the inflammatory response, and to improve the opportunity for the brain cells to regenerate after the injury. And what I've seen so far and read about with DMT makes this drug very exciting because it seems to be able, or potentially will be able, to be active in each of those domains, apart from the fact that it's already demonstrated that it will be safe, or we hope it will be safe, and it will not interfere with any of the other physiological components of managing stroke. If it is capable of buying some time to allow us to deliver our time-critical treatments, as I described before, with less injury, or to get to a treatment center quicker and still have salvageable brain, that will be tremendous. If it's capable of being anti-inflammatory and so reduce the ongoing injury that happens after the stroke, that will be a second major win. And if it then, at some point after stroke, is capable of being harnessed as part of a therapeutic rehabilitation program, then it could be very significant in a third way. So with each of those 3 potential options, as far as I can see, DMT looks to be a really very exciting opportunity for us along the whole phase of stroke recovery.
How incredible if we see this happen in our lifetime. Now, Dr. Rudd, when Algernon Pharmaceuticals asked you for your help to investigate DMT as a potential stroke treatment, what was your reaction, seeing as how it is a psychedelic?
Well, perhaps a little bit skeptical that we could get the regulatory authorities to license the drug for the research. I'm aware of how difficult that's been for other compounds in the past. If you look at trying to research cannabis-derived drugs, for example, in the UK, it's taken a huge amount of time and effort to get those trials going. But not really skeptical as a clinician. Many of the drugs that we use to treat our elderly patients, our stroke patients, have psychiatric side effects. And that's not always just associated with giving too much. So we're used to managing those sort of problems. And I think that what we're aware of is in sort of developing a drug such as this for clinical trials and then into routine clinical practice, it has to go through an extremely rigorous process of testing. And clearly, we're going to have to see, the stroke patients are a particular group of patients. Many of them are elderly. Many of them have other pathologies going on, comorbidities. And those may influence the way that patients are able to tolerate the drug. But my hope is that we can overcome those sort of, or answer those questions very quickly and get on and do the sort of trials to see whether it really can help this particular group of patients, because we desperately need more treatments available for them.
We certainly do. Now, Christopher, if DMT is effective, do you think clinicians will welcome this treatment globally?
I think clinicians will welcome a new treatment if it's effective, and so will regulatory agencies. I mean, we haven't mentioned it here, but just for clarity, we are not even planning to deliver a psychedelic dose. So we are, and we're not making any judgment about that, other than when you've had a stroke and you've got this possible state of confusion going on, probably minimizing that is intuitive. So we plan to deliver a sub-psychedelic dose that's not psychoactive in the hallucination sense, but it is active in the brain cells, that it's helping the brain make new connections and it's helping with neurogenesis. And I just wanted to touch on a comment that Tony made about the changes in the UK, that they started out 1 to 2% of patients were getting thrombolysis, and they ended up in the 12 or 13%. That's stunning. Globally, the average is somewhere between 2 to 10%. But even at that, 10% of patients qualifying for thrombolysis, which is a clot-busting drug, or about 15% will have a stroke occurring in a blood vessel large enough to go in and mechanically remove it. That's a stunning number. That means about 80 to 85% of stroke patients in an ischemic injury are stabilized and really don't have an option. They're just being monitored. And so we're very hopeful that DMT will perform in these studies. We brought in some of the top, as you can see today, I'm very grateful for Tony and Rob to have joined our team. And we're hopeful as we move forward to investigate DMT and see if it is a viable treatment option for stroke patients.
Well, since we've started talking about DMT, I've had a lot of positive feedback from people who are keeping a very close eye on all of this. The company is called Algernon Pharmaceuticals. Dr. Rudd, Dr. Simister, Christopher Moreau, I want to thank you all very much for joining us. And for more background and to find out the latest on this topic and everything else that Algernon Pharmaceuticals is up to, you can go to algernonpharmaceuticals.com. Please subscribe to our channel so you're up to date. Give us a like. And everyone, thank you again. Have a wonderful day.
Thanks, Cyndi.